The Four Noble Truths. A path to liberation and inner peace. Have you ever felt an unexplainable emptiness inside? Despite achieving success, having a loving family, and accumulating material wealth, there's often an undeniable sense of dissatisfaction. Something always seems to be missing. This feeling of emptiness is not unique to you. It's a universal human experience that transcends cultures, generations, and backgrounds. In Buddhism, this fundamental dissatisfaction is known as dukkha, often translated as suffering. But it also encompasses anxiety, restlessness, and the inherent imperfections of life. Through his profound enlightenment, the Buddha discovered an unshakable truth: suffering exists. It has a cause, it can be overcome, and there is a path to its cessation. These insights form the foundation of Buddhist philosophy, the Four Noble Truths. But to truly grasp the essence of these truths, we must go beyond intellectual understanding and experience them in the fabric of our own lives. Let's explore what they mean and how they can transform the way we perceive our existence. Chapter 1. The First Noble Truth, the Reality of Suffering, Dukkha. The first noble truth is both simple and profound. Suffering is an unavoidable part of life. No matter who we are, where we come from, or what we possess, we all experience suffering in one form or another. Some people might resist this idea. After all, isn't life filled with joy, beauty, and love? Yes, but even in moments of happiness, suffering lingers in the background. The fear of loss, the anxiety of change, the inevitable passage of time, these subtle forms of suffering affect us all, whether we recognize them or not. The different forms of suffering. The Buddha categorized suffering into three major types: physical suffering, the pain of birth, aging, illness, and death; emotional suffering, separation from loved ones, encountering the undesirable, and failing to obtain what we desire; existential suffering, the deep dissatisfaction that arises from impermanence and the ever-changing nature of life. These are not just abstract philosophical ideas, they are experiences we all share. A story of loss and awakening. Let's consider the story of Rajiv, a successful businessman who seemed to have everything: wealth, power, and a loving family. But one tragic day, his only son died in a car accident. His world shattered. No amount of money could bring his son back. And suddenly, all his achievements felt meaningless. Lost in grief, Rajiv sought answers. He visited a Buddhist monastery, where a wise monk told him, "Rajiv, suffering is an undeniable truth. Clinging to impermanent things brings pain. But there is a way beyond suffering, through understanding its nature." At first, Rajiv resisted. How could understanding lessen his pain? But as he practiced meditation and reflected on the nature of life, something shifted. He realized that his suffering did not come from the loss itself but from his attachment, the belief that he could control or hold on to things forever. His grief did not vanish, but he learned to face it with wisdom and inner peace. He began to see that all things are transient, and rather than resisting reality, he learned to embrace it with acceptance. Can you relate to suffering? Rajiv's story may sound extreme, but suffering exists in many forms, big and small. Have you ever worked tirelessly for something, only to see it slip away? Have you ever lost someone dear to you, feeling the emptiness of their absence? Have you ever longed for happiness, only to realize that joy, too, fades over time? Even in moments of success, there is often a quiet dissatisfaction. You achieve a goal, but then what? A new desire emerges. The cycle never ends. This subtle, ever-present craving is also a form of suffering. Why recognizing suffering is a step toward freedom. At first, accepting suffering might seem depressing, but the Buddha's teaching is not meant to bring despair, it is meant to awaken us. Think of it this way: if a doctor tells you that you are sick, it might be unsettling, but if you never acknowledge the illness, how can you ever seek a cure? In the same way, recognizing suffering is not a reason to feel hopeless, it is the first step toward liberation. Many of us try to escape suffering by chasing pleasures, money, relationships, success, but nothing lasts forever. True peace does not come from avoiding suffering, it comes from understanding it. When we stop running, when we look directly at suffering and its causes, we begin to see the world differently. We learn to accept change, to appreciate the present moment, and to let go of the illusion of permanence. Like Rajiv, we might not eliminate suffering entirely, but we can learn to face it with wisdom, courage, and peace. This is just the beginning. The Buddha not only revealed the reality of suffering but also its cause and, most importantly, the path to freedom. Are you ready to explore what lies ahead? Chapter 2. The Second Noble Truth. The Cause of Suffering, Samudaya. If suffering exists, then what is its cause? The Buddha revealed that the root of suffering lies in craving, tanha, our endless desires and attachments that keep us trapped in dissatisfaction. At first, this may seem surprising. Isn't it natural to want things? Don't desires drive us to improve our lives? While craving itself isn't inherently evil, the problem arises when we become attached to desires, believing they will bring us lasting happiness. But nothing in this world is permanent, and when things inevitably change, suffering follows. The three forms of craving that fuel suffering. The Buddha identified three main types of craving that deepen our suffering. 1. Craving for sensory pleasure, the constant pursuit of comfort, pleasure, and indulgence. This includes material wealth, delicious food, romantic relationships, and entertainment. These things bring temporary joy, but when they fade or disappear, we feel empty and chase after more. 2. Craving for existence, the desire for power, recognition, and immortality. Many people strive for success and status, believing these things will give their life meaning. But the higher they climb, the more they fear losing what they have. 3. Craving for non-existence, the wish to escape pain, suffering, or even life itself. Some seek oblivion through addictions, distractions, or avoidance, hoping to numb their struggles. But running from suffering only prolongs it. These cravings create an endless cycle of wanting, getting, losing, and wanting again, a cycle that never truly satisfies. The story of an unsatisfied star. Let's consider the story of Jake, a rising Hollywood actor who had everything he ever wanted: fame, wealth, and admiration. He worked tirelessly to achieve success, believing that once he made it, he would finally be happy. But instead of fulfillment, he found himself trapped by his own success. The pressure to maintain his image was overwhelming. The fear of losing fame haunted him, and no achievement ever felt like enough. His mind was consumed by, what if I lose everything? One day, during a trip to Thailand, he met a Buddhist monk. Sensing Jake's distress, the monk gently told him, "Jake, you are chasing fame as if it will bring you eternal happiness. But everything changes. The moment you let go of the need to be recognized, you will find peace." At first, Jake resisted. How could he stop wanting success when it was everything he had worked for? But as he reflected on the monk's words, something clicked. He saw the truth. It wasn't fame that made him suffer, it was his attachment to it. The more he craved validation, the more he felt anxious and incomplete. Eventually, Jake stepped away from the spotlight. He started practicing mindfulness, embracing a simpler life. He still appreciated acting, but now, he did it without clinging to fame. And for the first time in years, he felt free. Do we recognize our own cravings? Jake's story may seem distant, but in reality, we all experience similar struggles. Have you ever felt the thrill of getting something you wanted, only to realize it didn't make you as happy as you expected? Have you ever achieved success in something, only to become obsessed with keeping it? Have you ever tried to escape from pain through distractions, addictions, or avoidance? Craving operates in subtle ways. We chase love, wealth, recognition, or even a perfect life, believing that just one more thing will bring us lasting happiness. But life doesn't work that way. The moment we get what we want, new desires arise, and the cycle continues. Why understanding craving is liberating. At first, the idea that desire causes suffering might seem discouraging. But this truth is actually empowering, because once we understand the cause of our suffering, we can begin to change it. Imagine you are caught in a strong current, struggling to swim against it. The more you fight, the more exhausted you become. But the moment you stop resisting and go with the flow, you find freedom. Life is the same way. Instead of desperately clinging to things, fearing change, or running from discomfort, we can observe our cravings, understand them, and let them go. This doesn't mean we should abandon all goals or enjoyments in life. It simply means we should stop clinging to them as if they define our happiness. When we stop seeking happiness in fleeting things, we begin to find a deeper peace, one that is not dependent on external circumstances. This brings us to the next question: if suffering has a cause, does that mean it can be stopped? The Buddha's answer was a resounding yes. There is a way out. Chapter 3. The Third Noble Truth, the End of Suffering, Nirodha. After understanding that suffering exists, dukkha, and that it is caused by craving, tanha, the next question naturally arises: is there a way to end suffering? The Buddha's answer is both simple and profound. Yes. Suffering is not permanent. It can be transcended. This state of liberation is called nirvana, nibbana, a condition where craving and attachment no longer control us, where we are no longer trapped in the endless cycle of dissatisfaction. But nirvana is not some mystical, otherworldly concept reserved for saints and monks. It is a state of deep peace, clarity, and freedom that anyone can experience, even in daily life. What does the end of suffering look like? Imagine you are holding a heavy backpack filled with stones. You've been carrying it for so long that you barely notice the weight anymore. But one day, you stop, take it off, and suddenly feel light, free, and at peace. This is what happens when we let go of attachment. We don't have to wait for death to experience nirvana. Even in small moments, when we release our anger, when we stop clinging to things, when we embrace life as it is, we taste a glimpse of true freedom. A story of letting go and finding peace. Take the story of Emily, a high-powered executive who worked tirelessly to prove herself. She was successful, respected, and wealthy, but despite everything, she was constantly stressed, always chasing the next big achievement. She never felt enough. One day, during a retreat, she heard a monk say, "Emily, happiness does not come from adding more to your life, but from letting go of what weighs you down." At first, she resisted. How could she let go? Wasn't ambition necessary? But as she reflected, she saw the truth. Her suffering didn't come from hard work itself. It came from her constant craving for recognition, her fear of failure, her attachment to success. She didn't quit her job or abandon ambition, but she began working with a new mindset, detached from the need for approval, free from the fear of failure. For the first time, she felt truly at peace. How can we experience nirvana in daily life? You don't have to be a monk or give up everything to experience freedom. Even in daily life, we can practice small moments of letting go. When we stop reacting with anger and instead choose patience, we experience peace. When we let go of unrealistic expectations, we feel lighter. When we stop seeking validation and simply live in the present, we taste freedom. Every time we release attachment, we step closer to nirvana. It's not something we find outside, it's already within us, waiting to be uncovered. True peace comes from within. Many people spend their whole lives searching for happiness in external things, money, relationships, achievements. But the deeper truth is, happiness is not about gaining more, it is about letting go of what causes suffering. Nirvana is not about becoming emotionless or detached from the world. It is about experiencing life fully, without clinging, without fear, without suffering. It is the joy of being truly present, the peace of embracing life as it is. And the best part? Anyone can reach it. The Buddha didn't reserve enlightenment for a select few. He taught that anyone who seeks wisdom and practices letting go can find true peace. The journey doesn't end here. Now that we know suffering can end, how do we actually get there? The answer lies in the fourth noble truth, a clear, practical path that leads to liberation. Are you ready to walk that path? Chapter 4. The Fourth Noble Truth, the Path to the End of Suffering, Magga. After recognizing that suffering exists, understanding its cause, and realizing that it can end, the next logical question is, how do we free ourselves from suffering? The Buddha didn't leave this as a mystery, he provided a clear, practical path called the Noble Eightfold Path, Bat Chan Dao. Unlike blind faith or rigid dogma, this path is something we can actively practice and experience in our daily lives. This is not just a way to reduce suffering, it is a path to deep wisdom, inner peace, and ultimate liberation. The Eightfold Path, a roadmap to freedom. The Eightfold Path is often divided into three core practices: wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. 1. Right view, Chan Keen, seeing the world with wisdom. Understanding life as it truly is, not through illusions, but through deep awareness. This means recognizing impermanence, accepting suffering as a reality, and understanding the law of cause and effect, karma. Example: imagine two people facing a setback, one panics, while the other remains calm, seeing it as a temporary challenge. The difference? Perspective. When we see life clearly, we no longer react blindly. 2. Right intention, Chan Tu Dui, cultivating compassionate and letting go thoughts. Our thoughts shape our reality. Right intention means replacing selfishness, anger, and attachment with kindness, compassion, and the ability to let go. Example: instead of thinking, "How can I get ahead of others?" we think, "How can I grow while helping others?" This shift creates a more fulfilling and meaningful life. 3. Right speech, Chan Nu, speaking with truth and kindness. Words are powerful, they can heal or harm. Right speech means speaking truthfully, kindly, and with good intentions. Example: imagine two scenarios, one where someone gossips about a friend, and another where they offer words of encouragement. Which creates peace, and which creates suffering? The choice is ours. 4. Right action, Chan Niep, acting with ethics and integrity. Our actions shape our destiny. Right action means living ethically, avoiding harm, violence, and deceit, while cultivating kindness and honesty. Example: choosing not to harm animals, being honest in business, and helping those in need. These actions not only benefit others but also bring inner peace. 5. Right livelihood, Chan Mang, earning a living without causing harm. How we make a living matters. Right livelihood means choosing work that does not exploit, deceive, or harm others. Example: a doctor who heals people versus a businessman who profits from dishonesty. One creates peace, the other perpetuates suffering. Our work should align with ethical principles. 6. Right effort, Chan Tin Tan, cultivating discipline and perseverance. Freedom from suffering doesn't come instantly, it requires effort. Right effort means actively developing good habits, letting go of harmful ones, and being persistent in self-improvement. Example: just like a musician practices daily to master their art, we must consistently practice mindfulness, kindness, and self-awareness to transform our minds. 7. Right mindfulness, Chan Naim, being fully present. Mindfulness is the heart of Buddhist practice. Right mindfulness means being fully aware of the present moment, whether it's eating, walking, breathing, or speaking, without being lost in the past or future. Example: when we eat with mindfulness, we appreciate each bite. When we listen with mindfulness, we truly hear others. A mindful life is a peaceful life. 8. Right concentration, Chan Din, developing inner stillness through meditation. The mind is like a restless monkey, constantly jumping from thought to thought. Right concentration means training the mind through meditation to develop inner stillness, clarity, and wisdom. Example: a still lake reflects the moon perfectly, while a disturbed lake distorts it. Similarly, a still mind sees truth clearly, while a restless mind sees only confusion. Why the Eightfold Path matters. The Noble Eightfold Path is not just a list of rules, it is a transformational way of living. It doesn't demand blind belief but invites us to try it for ourselves and see the results. It is not about escaping life but fully engaging with it, wisely and compassionately. It is not about perfection but progress. Every small effort brings us closer to peace and clarity. It is not about rigid control but balance. By practicing in daily life, we cultivate joy, wisdom, and true freedom. As we walk this path, suffering begins to fade, not because life becomes perfect, but because our relationship with life changes. The journey continues. The Buddha didn't just teach philosophy, he offered a way to experience freedom. Right here and now, the path is open to everyone. And the question is, are you ready to take the first step? Conclusion: the path to liberation lies within you. The Four Noble Truths are not abstract philosophical ideas. They are a practical roadmap to transform your life. They show us how to understand suffering, recognize its cause, realize that it can end, and follow the path that leads to true peace. No matter who we are, where we come from, or what struggles we face, suffering is a part of the human experience. But just as suffering exists, so does the possibility of liberation. A businessman mourning a great loss can find healing through acceptance. A celebrity caught in the illusion of fame can find peace by letting go of attachment. A student struggling with self-doubt can find confidence in the present moment. The Buddha's wisdom is not limited to monks or scholars. It is for everyone who seeks clarity, peace, and freedom. Your journey begins now. The path to liberation does not lie in distant places or mystical teachings. It is already within you. Right now, in this very moment, you have the power to take the first step. As you walk this path, do so with awareness, courage, and an open heart. Suffering is not your final destination, freedom is.